Maseches Bava Metzia Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis. We're actually not in Beis Amud Beis. We're already on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, but we are in Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. But we definitely have to review yesterday's stuff, which is from Yud Beis Amud Beis. I would not start reading from there, but I would review Balpeh, partially Balpeh and partially inside the topics of yesterday. Basically, our Mishnah presented the machloikes between Rabbi Meir and Chachomim. Rabbi Meir says that if somebody finds a shtar in the street, that shtar that he found in the street, shall he give it back to the malve? Shall he not give it back to the malve? Says Rabbi Meir, depends. If the shtar has achrayis in it, if achrayis is mentioned in the shtar, that is to say, it says in the shtar that in case that the loive doesn't pay, then the nechosim, the assets of the loive, are meshubad, are mortgaged to the malve, which means that if there are lekochos, if there are customers, people who bought from the loive, the land can be taken away from them, justifiably so, because it's meshubad. Then what do we say? We say that he should not give it back. But if the shtar does not contain achrayis, if there's no achrayis in the shtar, what did we say then? Give it back. So the shtar that is more, so to speak, powerful and can affect other people, the lekochos, don't give back. If the shtar only affects the malve and the loive himself has to give back, but not anything beyond that, then we say that you give it back. That was Rabbi Meir. And Chachamim say in the Mishnah that you never give it back. Even a shtar that we're reviewing, by the way, even a shtar that is not a shtar with shiabud, you still don't give it back, because they can still use the shtar against the lekochos. It sounds from the Mishnah that we're protecting the lekochos very much. And the question of the Gemara was, what do you mean? If it's a real shtar and the person is moide, if the loive admits and says, yes, I wrote the shtar, yes, I owe money, he's an honest guy, then what would be the concern? If it does not admit, then excuse me, first find out that it's a real thing. Find out that it's a real shtar. Yeah, why do you give it back to the malve? You're giving a gun to his hand. And if you tell me that the malve, the loive, admits that it's a good shtar, then good, then he admits. Then why don't you give it to him? Yeah, because you're concerned lest the lekochos will be hurt. What do you mean? That's part of the game. They're supposed to have the land taken away from them. So Rav Asi's concern in general, I'm writing it here in the chart. Rav Asi, what's the concern of our Mishnah? That is the date, early date. Yeah, early date. That's the concern. That's Rav Asi. Rav Asi says basically that really, the shtar could be a very good, amazing shtar. The loive can admit that he wrote it because he's an honest person and everything could be beautiful and good. However, we are concerned of the following. Maybe the shtar was written when? Shtar was written on Pesach. Well, not on Pesach, I don't suggest that. It was written on Nisan, signed on Nisan, the very same time, right? And the halva could be even given to the malve, could be not, according to Rav Asi. But the loan only took place when? Much later. When? Let's say Tishrei, 6 months later. Oh, that's a big problem for who? For the lekochos. The malve and the loive are happy. The lekochos, any person who bought from Mr. Loive between Nisan and Tishrei is actually being lied to. And that's why the shtar is not a good shtar. The shtar can be used the wrong way. It's not a Shtar Mukdam per se, maybe, but Lemaise, yeah, it wasn't, they didn't cheat by, predating. But Lemaise, everybody who bought from the loive between Nisan and the following Tishrei, why they're losing? They're presented with a shtar that says, look, shtori kodem l'shtorcho. I was here first, says who? Says the malve. I'll snatch the kark away from you. And look, the shtar says that. It's a kosher shtar, but not say the charedis with the best yiras shamayim edim. And yet, what? Hey, give me the land. And yet, it's a lie. Why? Because really, the halva, which according to Rav Asi, the halva is what creates the shiabud, the halva only took place later. So they really bought karkois that are bnei choirin. They really bought pieces of land that are free. They bought the lands before the actual loan took place, and that's a problem. That's what says Rav Asi. If we have a shtar with achrayas, you don't give it back. Who says that? That's how Rav Asi explains the Mishnah. Now, we mentioned a no, not lying to Chachamim. He was explaining Rabbi Meir. He explains Rabbi Meir. Soon we'll get to Chachamim. He explains the concern of Rabbi Meir. Now comes the Gemara asked the question, and that question was about what? About a Mefurasha Mishnah that says you are allowed to write a shtar and chasmin a shtar, sign a shtar to a person, a loive, even though the malva is not with him. How do you allow such atrocity? Right? How do you allow that? How do you tell the chatchila to Eidim, Yerushalayim, very Haredi, and you tell them, go and sign the shtar for a guy without knowing that there's alvo taking place? Maybe you'll take the alvo in 6 months' time, or maybe in 2 days' time, maybe later, and you're actually creating creating trouble. Answers the Gemara and Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. We're not reading inside yet. We're still reviewing yesterday, and that okay. So this is okay. That was our Mishnah's concern. Our Mishnah. And now we have the Mishnah in Bava Basra that allows the people to write. Yeah, Mishnah in Bava Basra. Mishnah in Bava Basra. Yeah, that says one is allowed to write in Chasman Shtar without the presence of the Malve. Why isn't that a concern? Says Rav Asi, I'll tell you why. That Mishnah over there, that's not yet. That Mishnah over there says Rav Asi. This is Rav Asi's column. Says Rav Asi. That Mishnah over there. No. That spoke about Shtori Hakno. What Shtori Hakno? Shtori Hakno is Hakno. Hakno means an independent, unilateral, one-side shibud, which means if it's written outright in the shtar that regardless of the halvo, when and if it will take place, my neches, my asset is meshubad to Mr. Potential Malve, right? So that created a shibud. In other words, what's all concern of shtar? What's all concern of Shtar Mukdam? What's all concern of the early shtar? When do we say this discrepancy, not discrepancy, this lack of coordination, this some kind of collision here between the date of the shtar and the actual loan. Why is that a problem? Because you assume that the loan is what creates the shibud. So having an early shtar is false because it's false pretenses. It shows as if the halva took place in Nisan, or really the halva took place 6 months later. But if we make a condition that the only thing that actually creates the shibud is the shtar hakno, my nechosi, my assets are meshuba to the malver, regardless to when and even if he does the halva, then great, then no problem. In such a case, and only then we allow the edim to write. The Mishnah of Basa says that, yeah, the Mishnah of Basa told us you're allowed to actually write a shtar which is potentially early. No problem. Because if that early shtar is really the date when the Shiabud started, and those lekochos should know about that shtar happening because there's a call, that's very good. That's how Rav Asi explains that over there. However, there's the third thing, a regular Shtar Mukdam. There's a Mishnah in Shvis, that spoke about Shtar Mukdam and early Shtar. And the Mishnah said outright, early Shtar is possible. According to Rav Asi, no question, of course. A regular Shtar, which is not Shtar Akno, is a Shtar Mukdam. In other words, any Shtar which is not Shtar Akno, regular Shtar Alvo. Yeah, and it says in the Shtar, I actually owe so and so money when Nisan Tafshin Pei Aleph, and the loan, which is the real cause for Shiabud, which is the real moment in which the other people are losing the lekochos, from that point onwards, 6 months later, that's a Shtar Mukdam. Yeah, because the Shtar it's not a lie as of itself, but Lamaisa to present somebody with a Shtar that shows as if the Malve will come to the lekochos of the loive in a certain, once he's not being paid, and show, look, My shtar shows that I was already owed money, and the money you bought was already mortgaged. You know since when? Since Nisan Tafshin Pei Aleph. That's a lie, because really the Shiabud only started in Tafshin Pei Beis in Tishrei, and that's the concern of Rav Asi, and that is the story over here. Now the Gemara asks the question: so what's the problem of our Mishnah? What's the concern of our Mishnah? Early date. Why concerned about an early date? The Maaseh, we never have early dates. We don't allow it in halacha, right? If Beis Din instruct the edim what to do, they would tell them, don't write ishtar unless you know that the malva is really there, unless it's a kno. So our Mishnah is not a kno. So what's the concern? Answer the Gemara: the early date in a shtar that fell, a shtar that fell down and was found in the street, that's bad news. A shtar that fell in the street and was found in the street, that doesn't schmeck right, doesn't smack of good news. And we say if the person was an honest person with a good shtar, then he would have made sure. I mean, we're not sure, but at least we're concerned enough to find out what's going on. And don't be a big tzaddik, Hashavas Aveda, and run to the malva to give it to him. Because we say if it was a good shtar, which is not early, but all the dates are right and everything is good and everything was synchronized well and was all the same day, I don't think he would have fallen from his pocket. Maybe, but less likely, because he knows the shtar is actually not fraudulent but close, basically wrong date. Memela, we say, here we voice a concern and we say that's why it fell. That is, in a nutshell, that is Rav Asi. Now, yes. Okay, I'm listening. Yes.
And there is, by definition, the malva and the lova and the eight are all there. That's kind of
No. That's actually the opposite. I'm answering a question now about Shtar Mukdam. On the contrary, what the Mishnah said in Basra was that the malva is not there. His interpretation of Mishnah of Basra, you and I, let's say, Yerushalayim Edim, and Mr. Loiva comes to us and says, listen, guys, can you please be my Edim and help me write the shtar? You're religious, you learned of Basra, help me write the shtar. Where's the malva? Not around. He doesn't know where the malva is. Normally, says that's a question on Rav Asi. How would I allow such a thing? Maybe the real halva, the real deal will happen later, and you're getting the lekochos stuck, you're harming the lekochos. Answers Rav Asi, no. The only time we will allow such a situation of signing a shtar without the malva, and without knowing whether halva took place, is if it says in the shtar that the shtar, excuse the stupid pun, the shtar is the only star, which means if the shtar is the only decisive thing, because it's a shtar hakno, the shtar is what creates the shiabud. If in that particular shtar hakno we say the shtar created the shiabud, and we actually don't really care when halva took place, and it's not a lie. When the malva will come in in a year or two to the lekochos and present in the shtar hakno, even though the halva took place much later, he's not lying, because that's a particular shtar in which we decided the shtar alone does the job of shiabud, and not the halva. As I said before, the whole problem with date is this synchronicity. No, that there's no synchronization, lack of synchronization between the shtar and the halva, assuming the halva is the real shiabud, and the shtar presents as if that's the real shiabud. That's the problem. You have a spokesman who speaks against you. Sometimes happens, government, White House, yeah. I mean A, and my spokesman says B. The real shiabud is the halva, and the shtar is really telling us a different story. That's a collision. That's wrong. That's lack of synchronization. But if you say that the shtar in shtar hakno, the shtar is really what creates the shiabud, no problem. Then in a chinami, from the date of the shtar, that's when Mr. Malva can go with absolute tzidkus and righteousness and correctness and go to the lekochos and really claim from then. Because it's really when the shiabud started. Nobody's lying. And that's how he explains the Mishnah of Abasa, which allows you. That's a big ukimta. Only then you're allowed to write it. Bidiyuk, love it, exception to the rule. That's Rav Asi's exceptions to the rule. According to Rav Asi, that Mishnah is an exception to the rule, but according to Abaye, that's the rule. Not for a kno, not for a kno. Not for a kno. No, a regular shtar, you need everybody, absolutely. According to Rav Asi, if it's a regular shtar, no kno, everybody has to be there. And if you don't see malva loive and the halvo, of course, if you don't see the halvo taking place, then you don't assist such a thing, such a process, such a procedure. Atakno is an exception because then the shtar is the real thing, as I said. No, because Akno alone is mechayvim. And Echinami, he did not borrow now. So what if he didn't borrow now? Machpatli. The shtar alone is the Shiabud. The shtar is what creates it. The shtar is the be all and end all. The shtar is a star. And therefore what? And therefore pseder. So from the moment of the shtar, which is written, we decide that this is what's mishabed, regardless of any halva. Why did he do it? Agutakasha, he's pressed for money, misken. So he's giving in to the Malva's whims. Better, as I'm giving. Yeah.
What is the effect of the witnesses and the signature?
What do you mean? Continues the Torah. Abaye Omar. I'd like to read Abaye from the inside and then fill the chart according to Abaye. We're repeating a little bit from yesterday. Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, Abaye Omar. Line starts with the word Omar. If you don't want lines, Abaye Omar. Abaye has a completely different hashkafa here. Eido b'chasum of zochin loy. I liked what you said, Yaakov. According to Rav Asi, a shtar which plays the role by himself, which the shtar creates everything itself, is an exception to the rule. According to Abaye, that's the rule always. Says Abaye, you know why the people in the Mishnah Bava Basra are allowed to write the shtar without the presence of the malve, and we don't know if the alva took place? You know why? Because I always believed that the shtar is the only powerful thing here that creates the Shiabud, regardless to the date of the alva. Always, what you see is an exception only if it says a kna. I see that as always. In other words, I believe that the shtar itself, answering your question also, according to Abaye, the power of the Chsimas Eidim is insurmountable, and therefore when they signed and the signature was on the shtar, and it says in the shtar, I owe so and so, such and such, and as we'll see later in the Gemara, he gave it to the malve, the Levi gave to malve, even though the malve did not yet lend the money. Loch patli. The crucial point, the pivotal point, the important point is the point of chasima of the shtar, not the halva. So according to him, the Mishnah in Bava Basra, according to Abaye, is always any shtar, not just shtar kno, any shtar in the world, any shtar once given to the hands of the malve already carries with it the bomb, the Shiabud. Mimela, it looks like according to Abaye, asks Rashi, so according to Abaye, the Mishnah in Shvis that says Shtar Mukdam is treif, it's possible. You're not allowed to have Shtar Mukdam. When is that? According to Rav Asi, it's any shtar which is not a kno, right? Is any shtar that's not a kno, a non-hakno shtar, according to Rav Asi, right? Non-hakno shtar is a regular shtar, which is mukdam, is always wrong. But according to Abaye, you seem to say there is no mukdam. What do you mean early? Whenever there's shtar, it's like, when does the event start? When I came, not me. Some people are like that. There's no coming late. When I'm there, that's when it starts. When the shtar is written, that's when everything starts. So it's an early shtar. Early to what? Early to the halva. Abaye doesn't care about the halva. It's not the point of Shiabud, right? As we said yesterday, answers Rashi, two answers. Yesterday I told you one, today I'll tell you another one. Says Rashi, Shtar Mukdam, which is treif, which is possible. By the way, just to make it simpler, Mishnah Bava Basra says, indicates kilo Shtar Mukdam is good. The Mishnah in Shvi, Shtar Mukdam is not good. Okay, Shtar Mukdam posul. Here, Shtar Mukdam posul. Okay, and the Mishnah Bava Basra seems kilo is good. So Rav Asi is very clear. Hakno versus non-hakno. What would Abaye say? According to Abaye, when is the Shtar Mukdam posul? When do we disqualify the shtar posul? How do we feel in that checker? Says Rashi. If what's the important crucial point which creates a Shiabud? the magical moment when he puts the ring on her finger. Stop. I'm joking. I mean to say that's when Kiddushin, they said they always give it as an example, when in 1 second with one word, life changes. Yeah, from that moment, she's an Eishes Ish with a lot of big halachic ramifications. What's the second in which the guy's a rich guy, the loive? He's just borrowing money to have more money. Yeah, the loive has 100 apartments all over New York. Yeah, when do all these apartments become mishuba to Mr. Malve? What's the magic moment according to Abaye? The chasima. The chasima. Also transferring. Yeah, but the chasima is what created it. It's a good point. The giving, but the main point is the chasima and not the writing and not the actual halvo, as opposed to the halvo. So let's say Mal veloive, they all sit together and they sign. When do they sit down together? In Chaf Aleph of today. Chaf Aleph of Tafshin Pei Beis. They sit down and they do the chasima with the Eidim and they predate it. They change the computer's date. They do it on computers, yeah. And they write that today is not Chaf Aleph of Tafshin Pei Beis. It's today Chaf Aleph of Tafshin Pei Aleph. Now that's not just a lie. It's also obviously according to Abaye. That's a Shtar Mukdam. Why? Because you are makdim the date of the chasima. If the chasima is in the real time and halvo is later, we don't care about halvo. But since the chasima itself is really what creates the shiabud, and you predated the chasima, you wrote, we signed this paper a year earlier, a year and a half, mamish that kind of lie, then you're mamish lying, because predating the actual chasima. When the chasima is written today, and it's true, I'm signing today chaf aleph av tafshin pei beis. When will the halvo take place? Machpatli. The halvo can take place in Yotzim Tlotz in 5 years' time. Lo mishaneh. It's a real chasima. But if the chasima is predated, the chasima which is the one and only crucial point, that chasima was written, was signed, and it predated mamish false lie. That's Shtar Mukdam, because you are makdim the chasima, meaning you're not. He's listening to the Agdora. He's not concerned about making the chasima earlier than the halva. He's concerned with making the chasima earlier than what it really is. You're lying about the crucial point of the chasima. Avada, that's a lie, and avada that's a Shtar Mukdam. Of course, avada Rav Asi kol shekain. Abaye holds only then, only then. Rav Asi, of course, Baruch. Mashenken Rav Asi would tell you, was that just recorded? Rav Asi would tell you, no. Rav Asi would tell you, of course, that's the Shtar Mukdam. Rav Asi and Abaye argue about what? Shtar, let's say right today, I sign Chaf Aleph Av Tafshin Pei Beis, not in the presence of the halvo. The halvo will take its place in half a year's time. According to Abaye, that's absolutely terrific. Once Eidim Chasmini, that's when the Zechia happened. It's true there's a technical detail, Yaakov, that later it has to be in the hands of the Malveh. But Lemaisa, but the Shiabud starts then. Very good. Says Abaye, that's it. Says Rav Asi, Chas v'sholem. Rav Asi says, no. Really what creates the Shiabud is what? Is halvo. The halvo creates a Shiabud, and your Shtar shows that the Chasima created an earlier Shiabud. That's a big for instance, lack of synchronization. Yeah, and that is a big problem. Before we continue into understanding Abaye's stand here, and there were some very good questions asked here, which I have to investigate and look into. Chachamim in the Mishnah, we did not yet discuss, but Tosfos answers, explains why is it that Chachamim in the Mishnah said that whether the shtar has a chrayis written or does not have a chrayis written, you never give it back. You never give it back because the lekochos may be losing. Yeah, based in Nifroin Mehen. Explains Tosfos, taking us to a sugya which we'll see later in Daf Yudaled, and we saw in Bava Basra. There is a very famous machloikes, achrayus ta'us soifer, or lav ta'us soifer. What does it mean ta'us soifer? Mistake of the scribe. Achrayus, meaning, let's say you have a shtar. You found a shtar, lavdafka in the street or in Beis Din, any shtar was found. That shtar, interestingly, is missing any mention of achrayus. It does not stay in the shtar, the very basic thing that in case of failure of payment, however you call it, yeah, then all the karkos of you, Mr. Loiva, all the 100 apartments you have in New York City, they all belong or meshubad mortgage to me. That line called achrayus is missing from the shtar. What would you say? Well, that shtar has no achrayus. Cute, good for the loiva, right? Which means I would say, fine, this shtar does not mention achrayus, so there is no achrayus, meaning no shibud. The karkos do not belong to Mr. Malve. He should be very hopeful, can take a shtar in Beis Din, and as long as the loiva has a few $1 million to pay from his own cash, that's nice. But the nechosim who are not b'nei chorim, who were sold on, are not meshubad. Like it's a machlokes amaroim Rafram and Rav Asi, I think, at the end of Bava Basra, towards the very end, Daf Kuf Samich Tes, I think Amud Beis, it says over there, achrayus to sofer. Achrayus is such a very, very crucial point, and I told you at the beginning of the sugya, one of the only and major differences between milva ba'al peh, milva b'shtar, oral versus written, is the fact that the written alvo has the power to take money from the lekochos, achrayus. If achrayus is missing, it's like having a lemonade without lemon. It's like, an Englishman who doesn't like tea. It's like, what is it? What's the story? Like, it's missing the essence, yeah, and because of the fun, right? So therefore, according to one opinion, achrayus is just a mistake of the sofer. If achrayus is missing there, achrayus is really there, and he will use this shtar to attack, to charge the lekochos. Achrayus is not there. It must have been a sad technical mistake of Mr. Scribe. The scribe has his shviger coming to visit. He's very bothered. He's very this. Because why did he make a mistake? What do you mean because? Because shtar has to have achrayus. Shtar's essence is achrayus. There's no lemonade without lemon. There is no Israeli without chutzpah. The ein malasot. It's like it's part of it. The achrayus is not there. Just a technical thing. Avada, the achrayus is really there. Only the smart people can see it. I'm joking. The cipher didn't write it. Why? Because, however, another opinion holds no. Either from the other Moira hold no. He holds no. Achrayus loves those cipher. The achrayus, if the shtar is missing the achrayus, he means there is no achrayus, and he's being nice, the malve to the loive, and he's limiting his power, and he's not going to charge and take the karkos from the customers of the loive. Aha! Now we go back to our Mishnah, and the Mishnah, Rebbe Gitztin, is going to be very easy to read. Rabbi Meir says they really all hold the same. Rabbi Meir and Chachamim are almost exactly the same. They both believe in all those troubles of Abaye and Rav Asi, everybody. Yeah? Abaye and Rav Asi, by the way, don't argue on Chachamim, they are Meroim. Elamai, everybody agrees. We want one thing is the title of this Mishnah is one title: protecting the lekochos from trouble. That's the title. He believes because maybe it's predated, and Abaye believes, you know why? I said yesterday and I'll say today, kenunya. We'll see later, right? Maybe they are scheming against the lekochos. However, when are the lekochos vulnerable? Says Rabbi Meir, when a achrayus is written. When a achrayus is not written, they can never be attacked. Say Chachamim, no. Say Chachamim, they're always vulnerable because Chachamim say the magic yeshivish words, achrayus tos sofer. That's simple. Chachamim say any shtar can go anywhere and can attack any lakuach without the words achrayus written, because every shtar has achrayus, even if technically the sofer was too tired to insert those words. And that's the one and only difference between Rabbi Meir and Chachamim. And by the way, Shmuel, the Heilige Shmuel, is one who's going to say to Nafidal Amud Aleph. That's the only difference. Then I demystified it. So it has nothing to do with Abaye and Rav Asi. Abaye and Rav Asi both argue what is the problem. Why are we protecting the lekochos? That's the question. What's a big black wolf or face of mifletzes that we are coming to protect the lekochos from? Says Rav Asi, predated. Says Abaye, as I'm going to write it soon in English, kenunya, scheme of the malve and the loive. No, Jeffrey was before. S-C-H-E-M-E, scheme. Scheme, not skimming the milk, not skimmed milk, but scheme. Yes, I'm listening. Yeah, is that good? Yeah. Good. Kosher? Yes. Yes, I'm stopping the recording. No, Jeffrey was before you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I just want to mention something before we continue. Jeffrey just reminded me to remind you all. Our Mishnah talks about a case when the loive admits that there was a real loan and he did not yet pay. So for sure there is money owed to the malve and a chinami. If we don't know that, if let's say the loive says, I never gave him the shtar, like your case, or I already returned the money and a chinami, then we all agree that of course you don't give back any shtar, not even shtar without a chrayas. The issue over here is that malve and loive are buddy-buddy. Malve and loive seem to you like most Yerushalayim people. Malve says, I lent. Of course he says that. And the loive says, yes, I borrowed. And yes, I never gave back. No, looks like perfect picture, perfect. What's the problem? The only miskenim in the background, which you may not be aware of, are the gray figures in the background, the lekochos. And that, according to Rav Asi, is definitely an issue. Because maybe the shtar is not even deliberately predated, shtar written in Nisan, kosher, and only given in Tishrei. Lekochos are losing. It's true, malve and loive between them agree. According to Abaye, really what's the problem? And that's, I think I'll skip more text here and get to where we have to hold today. According to Abaye, before you guys, 1 second. According to Abaye, the question was, what's the problem? If both malve and loive agree. And according to Abaye, there's no predated. Any date is good. That's a crucial time when it's written. Yeah, it says Tafshin Pei Beis Nisan, so that's the time. What's the problem according to Abaye? I just want to complete the picture before I listen to questions. Says the Gemara later on. I'm skipping Birshutchem. Says the Mishnah. Let's skip to the word. We are in the line. About 15 lines or so from the bottom. Abaye masnisin hainu taime dechayish lepiron v'leknunya. Line starts with the word v'leknunya. Abaye is concerned like this, rabbis. As I told you yesterday, and you said that the Gemara teaches you how to be liars. Okay, chas v'shalom. The Abaye is concerned like that. The malve and the loive are sinister people. The malve and the loive say to each other, yeah, the milve is piroin. The milve was paid. The milve was paid. The malve is happy, got his money back, and the loive is happy. Why is the loive happy? He paid his loan. People are also happy when they pay the loan. Not allowed to give an oved of the zara, right? To receive the loan from an oved of the zara at the time of his holiday, of his chagah, because he's going to thank the getchka that he paid the loan. Yeah. However, says the loive to the malve, hold it, don't give me the shtar. Let's reuse the shtar. There are no eidim, Baruch, like you said. And now the malve and the loive surreptitiously, they gave they now say, let's use the shtar and go to the lekochos of the loive. The malve will come with them all red-faced and angry to the lekochos and says, your loive, which is your seller, never paid me. I want my money back. And here I have a very, very kosher shtar, madrin mina madrin, yeah, which was never paid. The loive with tearful eyes will say, I'm so sorry, really I couldn't pay. And he's going to lie that he didn't pay. And therefore what? The lekochos will have to get rid of the house of the 30 million apartment in Manhattan. Yeah, right? And who's going to share the $30 million? The malve and the loive. And they're going to laugh all the way to the bank. Isn't that cool? So because, not cool, I agree. No, that's not nice behavior. We'll all agree to that. But says Abaye, we're concerned about it. Because we are concerned about that, Mimela we say, if you found a shtar in the street. Now you may ask, why are we so far-fetched with our chashashos? Why are we so concerned about such a cruelty and krumkeit? Well, first of all, it's not science fiction. And secondly, why are we more concerned here than any other time? Because the shtar, fell in the street. A shtar that's found in the street is a bit suspicious. You see, too many times that little kid wandering, 5 streets away from his house, dysfunctional. Something is fishy there. A shtar is not supposed to be found in the street. Not in Manhattan, not in Manhattan, and not in New York either. Okay, so then that's the point. Such stars are fishy. So we're concerned of a scheme of the lekochos. Of course, they agree the malve and the loive about that, because who's going to lose? The third party, and they're going to get it at the end of the day. Okay, questions. We have 10 minutes to the end of the shiur. and I want to finish the Amud, but I'll listen to your questions now, and then we'll continue. Yeah, 2 more questions, and then we'll continue. Yeah. Again, Baruch reminded me that according to Chachamim, let's say you want to be nice to the loiv, that you're malve, you do not want to be mishabed his lens to you. If you write a shtar, according to Chachamim, whoopsie daisy, automatically it's meshubed, right? Because even if shibud is omitted, it's kilu yes written. Achrayis to sofer. Says the Gemara in Bava Basra, if I remember right, and you, they have to write mefurish no achrayis. According to Chachamim, if I write there is no achrayis, then no achrayis. But if the shtar is parev, achrayis is elegantly avoided, then achrayis is there. Very good. Okay, excellent. I'm being nice to you, and that's it. Or yeah, okay. Continues the Gemara. Quick. We have a long way to go. Frag the Gemara l'Shmuel, the Heilige Shmuel. Frag the Gemara l'Shmuel. According to Shmuel, the Omer loy chashin l'piron of kenunya. Shmuel says we're not concerned about the scheme. The scheme, the piron that the guy really paid, and now they want to reuse it against the lekochos. Shmuel, we'll see later on why he holds that's a far-fetched concern. We're not concerned about it. My ikal meimar. Then according to Shmuel, what's the concern of our Mishnah? Well, you're going to say Shmuel has to side with who? With Rav Asi. There's 2 concerns, right? Potentially. Either early date or a scheme. So now, frag the Gemara. Rav Asi. If Shmuel holds like Rav Asi, thinks like Rav Asi, that we're talking that only Shtar Hakna is the, so to speak, kosher predated shtar. Muki masnisin b'shita the lavakno. As we said, the Mishnah talks about any shtar, any regular shtar. A regular shtar that fell in the street is a concern. It may have written too early. If Shmuel believes like Rav Asi, then good, the Shmuel is fine. Ela yisava ki Abaye. But if Shmuel believes like Abaye, the Omar Eda b'chasum of Zachin loy, if Shmuel is an Abaye supporter and believes that what? That any shtar that is written early is okay, because really the power of Shiabud is with the Chsima Sa'edim. If so, Ma'ikal Meimar, then according to Shmuel, what's the issue of the Mishnah, right? If Shmuel for sure does not believe in the scheme. Scheming is not a chash for him, it's not a concern. So if he does not believe in it, like Abaye, that a shtar has Eda b'chasumov, and Abaye is not lahalacha in that, how would Shmuel, what's the concern according to Shmuel? He's not like Abaye and not like Rav Asi. So what is the concern? Shmuel is opinion number 3, but he's at a completely different level. And again, thank you, Jeffrey, for reminding me. And says the Gemara, Shmuel muki lemasnisin kishe'ein chayev moide. Wow. Shmuel is a whole different story, a whole different explanation of the Mishnah. Shmuel says the chayev, the alleged loiva says no. I did not borrow or I returned, either as a shtar shmar, either he says I returned already, or like Baruch said, it fell from my hands before I actually managed to do the halva. So the chayiv is not moide. That's a concern. What do you mean and then? So how can you give it to the malveh? Mamash like Baruch was saying, how can you give something to the malveh when the loivis shouts chayiv v'kayim? That's what the Mishnah is concerned and says, don't give him back the shtar. But obviously the question is, the Rabbi Meir says that a shtar that has no achrayis, you are allowed to give to the malveh. What? Ihochi frag the Gemara. Ki ein ben achrayis nechosim. What did Rabbi Meir say? If the shtar has no achrayis and the lekochos are not hurt, potentially, then you do give it back to the malveh. What? But the loiva screams that he doesn't owe the money. Frag the Gemara. Amay yachzir. How can you give it back to the malveh? Yeah, back. How can you give it to the mouth of the clown? Yeah, nehi deloy gabi min mishabdi. Although that shtar you cannot collect with it from the mishubadim, and the lekochos are safe and sound. Excuse me, from the bnei chayim, from the regular money. The guy's going to go to more the malve, and with absolute no justification, will go to the loiva's bank account and clean it up. And the loiva is screaming, this is not the right thing. The loiva is. And by the way, says Rashi, why do we believe the loiva to say all these stories that he paid back or mezuyaf? Because the shtar fell. Everyone agrees the shtar is more, fishy. But so the question is, how can you give it back to the malveh? The loiva says this is wrong. I do not owe money. How do you give it to the malveh without? Here's what achrayis. Would you give it to the malveh? As the Gemara, no, Shmuel the time. Shmuel has his own time. Shmuel follows his own reason. The Amar Shmuel says Shmuel. Omer hoy Rabbi Meir. Shmuel quotes Rabbi Meir the Tana to be saying, Shtar chov she'en bo echrais nechosim. Listen to this. A shtar chov that's missing the magic words echrais nechosim, that does not create any shiabud, any mortgage, any this, and goy v'lo mishabdi v'lo mibnei chori. That shtar is useless. You do not use it not from Shiabudim, not from Bnei Chorim either. This shtar is good. You know what for? And I'm not joking. The Gemara is going to say to cover your plate. This shtar is that shtar that says you owe me 10 million pounds. That shtar is very nice decoration, very cool kind of modern art piece to put on your bottle, on your plate. You do not do anything with it. You can therefore giving it to the mother. He's not giving him a gun. It's giving him a toy gun. A plastic gun with no plastic bullets. In other words, such a shtar that does not have a chrayas is not a shtar at all. You may say why? Because I told you. Yeah, I'm not sure. By the way, that's the only reason. I'm not 100% about that. The way I remember from somewhere, I may be wrong, is that a shtar that is not a chrayas. What is the shtar for? The whole thought of writing a shtar versus balpeh. I'm not interested in wasting time and money in Beis Din. It costs money to write a shtar. The Gemara says it many times. Why do you write a shtar if there's no achrayas? A shtar without achrayas, you should have done it balpeh. It's a waste of time and money for everybody, says Rabbi Meir. So such a shtar is possible. Such a shtar has no value whatsoever. Again, don't get me wrong. The shtar is as good as milva balpeh, but it doesn't have any gvir. Yeah. So now, frag the Gemara, if you're not going to do anything with it, the malve will not collect it. Why do you give it back to the malve? We're now asking the nice guy who found it in the subway and wants to do a shavas aveda. He picks up the shtar. The guy's a big talmid chacham, and he goes to the loive, and the loive says, "What? I do not owe. I do not owe. But lemaise, that shtar has no achrayas." The guy at talmid chacham knows. I hold like Rabbi Meir. A shtar with no achrayas nechosim is garnished. Is not a shtar. So I'll give it to the malve. Why do you ask him to give it to the malve? The malve has nothing to do with it. The malve is unable to use it as it is. What do you give it? What do you give it? What do you give it back to him for? That's not a joke. Lotzu al pitzlochisa shel malve. Yes. In other words, you have to give it back to the malve because mitzad the shavas aveda, you still have to give it back to the malve because the actual paper, the paper is worth something. It's a nice thick piece of paper, and he's going to use the paper to cover his tzlochis. Tzlochis is not a plate. Tzlochis in all the Hebrew is actually a small bottle. Yeah, he has a bottle. He lost his cork of the nice fancy wine, and now he wants to use that. Stop for the paper. It's not worth anything above the paper itself. Maybe then give it to the loive, right? The same. In other words, the loive is the one who actually wrote the shtar. Who writes the shtar? The loive and his aidim. So if you talk about the actual paper, maybe it belongs to the loive, right? So give it to the loive, the actual paper. The paper is worth very, very fancy paper, worth 20 shekels. Give that 20 shekels paper to the loive because he's the one who wrote it. And says the Gemara, no, loive who the Omar lohiv dvarim oilom. The loive says there was no halva. The loive, the alleged writer of the shtar, claims no, there is no shtar. He claims it's forged. He claims whatever. Because the loive says the shtar is wrong, he's not going to get it back. Had the cake and eat it. You claim there was no halva or something fraudulent, something wrong. You don't believe in that shtar. You don't believe in the shtar. You don't get the nice paper for 20 shekels to cover your plate, to cover your bottle. Who's going to get it? The one who believes in it, the malve. However, the malve will not be able to use it according to Rabbi Meir, which is in our Mishnah, that says, no, a shtar with no achrayas is worth nothing at all. Not even to collect even from the Bnei Choyrin. It's like, says Rashi, Mivla Balpeh. It's like Mivla Balpeh without Eidim. Mivla Balpeh without Eidim, excuse my street English. When there's Mivla Balpeh without Eidim, we say in English, go jump in the Huron Lake. Go jump in the lake. In other words, Mivla without Eidim. There was Ovo, like Balpeh. The shtar is no value. Shtar with no achrayas, a lemonade without lemon is not a lemonade. It's nothing. I'll pay you zero for that. Shkoyech. Again, sorry that yeah, but we got a better picture of the whole thing, I believe, right? It was good to do the Chazorah. It's not an easy sugya, so it was good. We had Chazorah, we had more. I don't know if I'll have time to make a nice chart. You want the chart? You want the chart? Seriously? Yes? No? No. You say no. You will be? Yeah. So I'll remember to print it later. Thank you very much. A great day. Have a good Shabbos. Next week, one second. Next week, there will be shiur on Sunday and Monday, Metzia Hashem, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off, and then we'll come with refreshed lekochos into Elul. Yeah, Be'ezus Hashem. Assuming that running with